All right. Thank you again for joining us. Today we have Kayleigh Evans from the Kentucky Association of Conservation Districts. Kayleigh is a past district employee who has years of experience working with producers in her area and lots of experience working with customer service in her area as well. So if you have any questions along the way, be sure to put them in the question and answer box and we will discuss them at the end of the webinar. And if you're ready, Kayleigh, you can take it away.
Thank you. As I get my screen on and shared, I'll just kind of continue to tell you about me. As Kelly said, I am a kind of a previous district employee. I am still hired through a district, but on a what we call a long-term detail to our state association, and really happy to be here. And I just kind of give you a little bit of history. I worked with a local conservation district for 17 years before moving into this role this year. And throughout that time, I have worked with our state employees association, moved through the leadership ranks of our Southeast Employees Association, and have served on the NCDEA board for many years as a Southeast region rep, and now as the current secretary as well. So if there's ever anything I can assist you with and questions you may have about moving into maybe some of those roles in your state, please reach out. Be more than happy to do that. As Kelly said, I do currently work with the Kentucky Association of Conservation Districts, and my role there is a Farm Bill Engagement and Training Coordinator. It's a long title. It takes in a lot of things. So I'm happy to be here with you guys. And we're going to talk about customer service that builds trust. So why does this matter? In conservation districts, we don't just deliver programs, we build relationships. Conservation districts rely on relationships, not transactions. Even small interactions influence our long-term engagement with producers and partners. A single interaction can determine whether someone applies for our programs, trusts our recommendations, and ultimately whether they'll come back in the future. Customer service isn't separate from our mission. It is our mission in action. Trust is determined by the result of the three following experiences: participation, cooperation, and impact. How can we ensure that our producers and partners have positive experience within these aspects? Trust isn't built in big moments or in one singular moment. It's cumulative, built in small, repeated interactions. With each and every interaction, people are assessing you and asking themselves, do you follow through? Do you explain things clearly and honestly? Do you treat them with respect, among other possible questions? Even when we don't have the perfect answer, how we respond matters. Our response in each interaction can determine if we'll have the opportunity to continue building that trust with our producers and partners. Providing superb customer service can only be done if we know our audience. Our audiences vary widely. Some people are regular or repeat customers that know our programs well. Others are new customers hearing about our programs for the first time. A key skill is being able to adjust how you communicate based on your audience. It's important to keep in mind that new customers usually need thorough clarity and guidance, while our experienced customers may value efficiency and timely updates more. Much of what we're going to talk about today is in relation to working with our landowners and producers, but it is important to also consider these points when communicating with our coworkers as well as our partner organizations. Challenges obviously exist and can directly affect our ability to provide and or improve our trusted customer service. So let's be realistic. The work we do isn't simple. We're balancing regulations, funding requirements, heavy workloads, limited staff, and more. While we may be dealing with our own daily stressors, it's important to remember that when customers visit our offices, they often feel confused and are overwhelmed from the start. So if or when someone is frustrated and expressing that frustration to you, it's often about the system and not you personally. But how we respond can set the tone for the relationship being formed. Most importantly, the first interaction sets the tone for the entire relationship. A strong first contact should include a friendly tone, a clear explanation of what is happening and what is going to happen next, a timeline if possible, even if it's approximate, and the contact information of a person they can reach out to with any further questions. If there are aspects of your discussion that you are unsure or uncertain of, be forthright and honest about that. Uncertainty and dishonesties are one of the fastest ways to lose that trust. But admitting what you don't know and assuring a producer that you will find out can begin to set the trust in that relationship. Our choice of words are meaningful. So let's discuss some tips for communicating effectively. We often use technical language and acronyms without realizing it. This language is often foreign to the people who come in to work with us. Instead of saying something like, your application is pending ranking, consider trying, your application is being reviewed and will know more by, and insert a time frame there. The clarity builds confidence. For example, in Kentucky, we often refer to our state agency or as DOC, but a landowner or producer would likely not be familiar with that acronym. It is important to avoid all jargon and acronyms that are secondhand to us, but foreign to the landowners and partners that are visiting our offices. Instead of telling a producer, I will submit your contract mod to DOC for approval, it would be best to explain this more clearly. A possible alternative response could be, with the changes you have requested to make to your state cost share contract, I will first need to submit a request to modify your current contract to the Kentucky Division of Conservation, who administers this program and who will review it for approval. This alternative may be a lengthier response, but it better clarifies what actions are being taken and hopefully more clearly explains the next steps without using the shorthand language that is familiar to us. Another point of consideration when thinking about the first response of, I will submit your contract mod to DOC for approval, could be misconstrued to a producer who is unfamiliar with the program. It sounds as if the modification is certain to be approved, whereas the alternative response clearly conveys that the request must be reviewed for a possible approval. An accurate understanding of your communication is vital for building trust. Be sure to state things clearly, using plain language, and don't be afraid to ask if they understand what you're telling them. And if needed or requested, be sure to follow up with the producer. If their contract modification was approved or disapproved, reach back out in a timely manner to confirm or share that information. Follow through is appreciated and where trust is cemented. Sometimes the most powerful and helpful thing you can do is listen. Before attempting to solve a problem presented, make sure the person feels heard. Responding with, I understand why that's frustrating. That one sentence can completely change the tone of a conversation. Demonstrating understanding can neutralize that tone. People want to feel heard and understood first and foremost. Addressing the possible problem needs to come second. A simple phrase such as, let's figure this out together, or let me help you with this issue, after actively listening, can be reassuring and hopefully diffuse any possible tension. But try as you may, you will have tough conversations or possibly be approached in an unfriendly manner. Even with every tip and trick you may have in your customer service toolbox, some conversations or interactions may persist with a negative tone from the producer. No matter what you do, emotions could continue to run high. If you find yourself in this position, it is pertinent to do the following. Stay calm, actively listen, express understanding and a desire to help, stick to the facts, and focus on what you can do. And always remember, if you don't know something, be honest about it and follow up when you find the answer. Consistency is key. Inconsistent information erodes trust quickly. When you communicate about anything with a producer or landowner, be sure to update your fellow office personnel in a timely manner. Making sure everyone is knowledgeable of the situation or status of a producer's contract or file can help to prevent confusion in the future and to ensure a consistent message from any and all staff is always provided. Even utilizing small tools like shared email templates, call notes, and internal checklists can make your team more consistent and reliable. And providing reliable follow-up communication is significant to building trusted customer service. If you're not providing the follow-up personally, be sure to ask your coworker or whomever is doing that follow-up to comment in their conversation with the producer that they're reaching out on your behalf or at your request. And you should do that vice versa as well. If you promise a follow-up contact with a producer and a coworker makes that contact, that producer may not consider that to be your follow-through. So mentioning, I'm calling on behalf of or in request of someone can help to close that loop and make the producer feel confident in what you say and that you will do what you say. Our goal isn't just one successful interaction. It's building long-term relationships. Always providing a quick follow-up or check-in shows people they're not just another file in your office. They are important. Sharing updates or information about other programs that are available, especially before a producer reaches out, is likely going to be greatly appreciated. And another way to make them feel important. Remember your repeat producers, landowners that visit our offices often or have visited before without a need for reintroduction can construe a level of importance and appreciation to that customer. I'd recommend to find a trick that can help you with your memory in remembering those people. I'll share with you something that was recently shared with me. It was called the Rule of Three. 1, when being introduced, watch and listen as the person introduces themselves or is being introduced by someone, and be sure to make eye contact in that moment. 2, repeat the person's name back immediately. It can be as simple as, nice to meet you, Dave, let's say. And 3, use their name at least one more time in the conversation. These steps will hopefully help to fortify in your brain who that person is and help you recall it in the future. When considering providing consistency, implementing office-wide practical tools can be extremely helpful and ensure consistency across the board, which will in turn build credibility. Tools such as creating standardized email templates for the entire office, providing a simple, frequently asked questions document, utilizing a checklist for new inquiries, and instituting shared contact logs with all office staff. You don't need to overhaul everything or apply every tool all at once. Small system improvements can make a big difference. Try starting with just one new tool and continue to add on once the previous tool has been fully instituted and utilized. With all that's been shared thus far, let's consider a scenario. A landowner calls frustrated about delays with their submitted application. Some things to think about. What would you say first? How would you clearly explain the delay? And how would you approach this in a way to maintain trust? My suggestion would be, after actively listening, a strong response might sound like, I understand the delay is frustrating. Right now, applications are still under review, but we expect updates within the next few weeks. I'll make a note in your file of your concern, discuss this with my other office staff, and we'll follow up with you as soon as more is known. This response expresses understanding, clearly explains the current status with an estimated timeline, and ensures the producer will get a response or follow-up contact, all provided in a professional manner. When building or maintaining trusted customer service with our landowners, it is vital to build and maintain a high level of trust and communication within the office space and with our coworkers. In terms of knowing your audience, our next few slides are going to be focused on the importance of our office's internal communication in relation to how that affects your interactions with landowners and producers, but also in a more general sense of working together with our fellow office personnel, as well as our partner organizations. Customers don't have to see our internal processes, but they can feel them. Maintaining a team alignment amongst your team is essential to providing consistency and improving relationships. If one staff member informs a producer of one thing and another staff member contradicts that information, our customer service trust drops quickly. Strong internal communication is what makes greater customer service possible and creates a positive experience for our producers. If internal tension exists amongst your office staff, related or unrelated to the producer at hand, you cannot allow that to seep into your customer service interaction or relationship. It's important to maintain a professional attitude at all times and avoid speaking with a tone of frustration or negativity, as well as avoiding the use of any body language or nonverbal cues that indicate that tension that may exist when communicating with anyone, producers, coworkers, and alike. Doing otherwise is extremely unprofessional and weakens that trusted relationship. When effectively communicating with others, it is important to consider that people communicate differently, and understanding a person's communication style helps to reduce or prevent possible friction. For example, some coworkers, partners, and producers want quick, direct answers. Others need details and context, while some prioritize the relationship and tone being presented. Learning someone's communication style and adapting your communication style, even slightly, when working with others can improve the team alignment. It may not be absolutely necessary, but when working with others, participating as a team in a personality assessment can provide insight to all parties involved. Identifying and understanding the team dynamic in terms of personality traits and communication styles can provide a stable and strong foundation for teamwork. Now, when I say adapting your communication style, it doesn't mean you need to change who you are, but small adjustments can help in certain situations and provide a cohesive work environment. If someone is very detail-oriented, remember to always give them specifics. If someone is fast-paced, be sure to keep it concise. The goal here is clarity, not conflict. From a personal standpoint, I've participated in an array of personality assessments from a professional perspective, as well as on a personal perspective. It can be enlightening even to yourself to understand why you function in certain ways. I've learned in detail what my baseline traits are, and how those may be a strength or a weakness for me. When thinking in a professional manner, having this information and sharing it with your coworkers can provide a level of understanding to everyone. You can build trust amongst one another. Know that you are understood, as well as understand the people you work with daily and how to work together or communicate best. While discussing avoiding or preventing conflict, let's move into how we can communicate with one another in a professional manner. Professional communication doesn't mean formal or stiff. It means clear, respectful, and effective. It's important to be calm, control our emotions at all times, to be concise, avoiding long, drawn-out explanations and unnecessary information, to be empathetic, if we can see situations from other points of view, and focusing on the key message. Let's imagine you have to approach a coworker about completing a task by a certain deadline. Avoid vague messages like, "Can you handle this?" This choice of words to one person might not be perceived as challenging, but for another, it may be interpreted as questioning one's capabilities. Instead, try something like, "Considering your current workload, would it be possible to complete this by Friday? Let me know if you need anything." This alternative message avoids possibly conveying incapability and instead clearly states that the question is in reference to their schedule and or workload, while also reminding them that they can always reach out for assistance. When discussing communication styles, we would be remiss not to discuss this in terms of electronic communication practices. I'm going to assume that we're all aware and possibly have experienced that a lot of miscommunication can happen over email or messaging. A wide variety of inferred tone can be applied to our written words. While you may have sent a message to someone meaning to convey that message in a friendly, professional, or neutral tone, depending on the mood or what that person receiving the message has experienced that day, unrelated to your message, they could self-imply a different tone than that which was intended. And being honest, this is most likely or commonly implied anger or aggressiveness or a negative attitude. To prevent this miscommunication, try to clearly indicate a welcoming and friendly tone when sending messages. Make it easy for your coworkers to respond by being clear about what you need, when you need it, and why it matters. And consider these tips to avoid that likelihood of miscommunication. Written messages sent in all caps can often be perceived as yelling. Using excessively large font or out of the norm use of larger font could be misinterpreted as an aggressive implied tone. Only using bold font or italics if you're indicating the importance of part of a message. But doing this too much or too often can be viewed negatively. When including other people in a message, make sure they are pertinent or participating in the discussion. When receiving messages from someone, it's also important that you remember not to assume the tone of that message. Stay open and neutral. View that message as just informative. Now, I think many of us have probably experienced receiving messages that we perceived as negative or aggressive or some other emotion. And possibly that was purposeful, but the best practice is to always disengage yourself from that emotion. If needed, take a few minutes or possibly hours before responding to the message with a clear mind. A hasty response could fuel the fire, per se. When I receive a message or email that upsets me, I try to step away from that electronic device completely, removing the temptation to respond immediately and wait to respond until I'm calmer. Distracting myself for a short period of time often helps. Sometimes I call a close friend within my work environment, or at least someone I know I can trust not to share my conversation with others. And I share my feelings with that person about the situation. Trusting this person is essential. You need to know your conversation is safely held in confidence with them. This allows me to vent and briefly diffuse my frustration, knowing that I'm being heard and understood. And most often, this person can help me to see the situation from another perspective and provide helpful advice for responding. Responding while possibly being upset will only lead to further miscommunication. It could escalate a situation unnecessarily and create tension or discord between the parties involved. Even with all that has been considered and discussed, we will not be able to avoid handling conflict. Conflict happens in every workplace. The key is addressing it early and professionally. Remembering to always focus on the situation, not the person. To ask questions instead of making assumptions. and to keep the shared goal in mind, which is hopefully maintaining your team alignment. The ultimate objective is to keep it professional and maintain a calm demeanor. My motto is that addressing conflict does not have to be a negative experience. It may be uncomfortable, but ultimately it builds trust, strengthens your relationship, and helps to support that cohesive environment. Trusted internal communication ensures better customer service. When your team communicates well and trusts one another, customers get consistent answers, and your office is perceived as trustworthy, consistent, and knowledgeable. Issues which cannot be avoided are resolved faster, and everyone feels more confident. Internal communication is the foundation of external trust. With that, let's consider a scenario involving internal communication. A producer stops by your office to ask about a conservation program, and one staff member provides the information requested. At a later time, the producer calls the office to make sure they understood what was shared with them. But this time, a different staff member is responding, and they relay a different message. Some things to think about. What went wrong internally? How could this have been prevented? And what's the best way to approach a solution? A possible way to handle this situation could be to initially apologize to the landowner, ensuring that your office will look into the situation and provide them with the correct and accurate information. Then work as a team to resolve the issue. Professionally and respectfully discuss ways to prevent it from happening again. Make sure all parties are aware of program policies and processes. Set a plan to make sure all office personnel are notified of any possible changes that may arise in the future. Consider participating in office-wide trainings pertaining to the program. If only one person in your office has a complete understanding of a program and the others just try to relay the information that they might know about that program to customers, the likelihood of passing along misinformation is high. And remember to discuss the issue in a timely manner and a professional manner. And with that, I'd like to leave you with a few key takeaways from this training. Trust is built in small moments. Consistency builds credibility. Internal communication equals external experience. Clear communication is critical. Always extend respect and understanding. And last but not least, relationships drive success. If you remember anything from today, let it be this. Trust isn't built in one big moment or in one singular moment. It's cumulative, built in small, repeated interactions. I have created a document with all of the information that I've shared here today, and maybe something to help your office, a tool to start in your office with, a first contact checklist. I'll provide them to NCDEA to be made available with this training on the website. I hope that it can be of assistance to you in your office. Thank you all for your time today. On the screen is my email, kayleigh.evans@kyconservation.com. If I can ever be of assistance to you, please contact me. And now I will turn over the floor or screen to Kelly Schumacher.
Thank you, Kayleigh.
Yeah.
I think that you hit all the really good highlights of that. Consistency, follow-up, those are true keys to building trust and customer service skills within the conservation districts or anywhere that you work. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put those in the question and answer box, and we'll have Kayleigh answer those before we leave today. And Kayleigh, do you have any stories, any anything that's happened to you over the years that really hit with you, stuck with you through the years?
Yes, yes. I mean, on both fronts, kind of dealing with our landowners or producers as they come in. Like I said, they're likely going to be confused, whether they maybe know that they're confused or not. That's always some part of aspect of it as well. But just making sure to um, being able to maintain that emotion. Sometimes it's easy to react to those people. But if we can control ourselves, a lot of times we can diffuse that. We've had that with people where something's been miscommunicated or misunderstood, and they come in or they call and say, "Well, this is what I was told," and you're like, "Well, actually, that's not, or this is actually what it was," and just trying to, like I said, you want to first listen to them, hear them out, and make sure that they're being understood, but then hopefully following that up with the correct information, and finding out where that miscommunication might have happened so that in the future you can prevent that. I will say on a more um, maybe personal or that internal communication, taken part in a lot of organizations within the conservation realm as well as outside of that. And, like I said, just getting to know people and maybe taking those assessments together. I know we did that with NCDEA, and I think it was very helpful, but I've done that on many, many things where sometimes you might not feel like that group or organization is maybe functioning at its best. And if we can come together and make sure that we're understanding each other, because a lot of times that um, that miscommunication is being led because we just don't understand how that person communicates or how they need to be listened to, sometimes a little more than maybe what we do. So I have had
Absolutely.
many of those opportunities in the office and just working with people.
For sure. That's awesome. Another possibility that some folks might be running into is that they are new to their position and the past employee or several past employees have conveyed information that wasn't accurate, or they did not follow through with what they told the producer that they were going to do. And that's a personal situation that I came into when I started working for my district over 10 years ago. And it took years for those producers to finally trust the conservation districts again. So it's a long road ahead, but you guys can absolutely do it. And
Well, and
um,
from a personal standpoint too, Kelly, when I started with the district 17 years ago, prior to being hired with the district, I had worked a lot with Extension and some of our local organizations. And then when I moved into the job with the Conservation District and started to go like, hey, let's work with Extension, let's work with these, people, Farm Bureau, whomever it might be. Even though those people knew me, they had a bad experience with that conservation district prior to, and it really did stunt a lot of what we could do for a long time. And I had to kind of rework that relationship with those partners and showing them that, hey, the person that you took issue with before, and rightfully so, it was a very negative environment, um, they're gone. And you know me, and I'm here now. Let's work together. Things are going to change, and kind of instilling that trust in them and with them more so than anything helped a lot. Like you said, it can be a long road. I
again,
remember going to the extension office, going like, "Hey, why can't we do these things together?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we used to try to do that, and it didn't work out." Like, I get it, but now there's someone else here. Let's try
yes,
again. So.
100%.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that you join us again next month. We'll be talking about local work groups, and we really appreciate everybody being here today. So thank
Thank
you,
you guys.
and thank you, Kayleigh, and we'll see y'all next month.
Thanks.